Hi, I'm Hunter Rogers. I'm a freshman here at Clemson University, and as part of Library 100, we have to do new student dialogues, which are basically just meetings that we have with other freshmen about a certain topic, and then we create vlogs, so that's what this is. My student dialogue was disability. I don't know what the technical title for it was, but it was on disability, and we started off talking about who we were, it was nice that we got to start off with who we were and what our abilities and what made us who we are, kind of thing. We started out with like a wheel that we described ourselves with. Like we talked about wrote our age and our socioeconomic class and things like that, and then our abilities, disabilities, things like that. And that helped kind of describe who we were to the group, and we split off into small groups of like 2 or 3, and that was nice because then we got to hear a lot more people talk because it was more of a personal environment instead of being in a group with like 20 or 30 people and then having to spill out personal information. So it was nice to have a small group portion of the dialogue so that it wasn't so awkward with just putting out information and then having people judge or process it. But when we did have big discussions, it was mostly our instructors would ask a question about, like, we watched a video on this person who had muscle dystrophy, uh, some sort of disease where he couldn't talk and can't walk and things like that, and how he lives from day to day. And whenever they would ask questions about it or ask questions about our lives and how we can relate to that and things like that, people wouldn't speak up. So it was just one person would talk or a couple of people would talk, and then it would be awkward silence while people nod and say mm-hmm. So it was a little bit different from what I thought it was going to be, but still there was that sit around, here's a topic, talk about it. But the small group session portion of it was nice because then it was more like, here's something that you've written out about yourself, now discuss it with other people. There were a lot of people who didn't really talk in the dialogue, and I guess a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about their personal lives, and that makes sense. But there were some people who spoke more openly. I spoke quite a bit on different issues just because I'm a talkable. I'm a talking person. I like talking, I guess. I think it was a good component of Library 100. I mean, I didn't enjoy having to go to the session at night for 2 hours, but I think it was a good way to connect with other people. And I think maybe, yeah, it was a useful tool for my university experience because I got to meet more people who weren't just like me, because I grew up in a town where everybody was a Christian and things like that. And so when we went to the dialogue, it was more people that were not the same. But we did talk about the disability thing. It wasn't all just personal stuff. We also talked about how disability is different in forms. Like there's the disability that you think of people in wheelchairs, and then there's disability of, like, I have really bad eyesight, and so I see that as a sort of disability, not so severe as others, but we talked about how that affects us and how we think about disability and what that means to us and how that gives us a certain perspective. So it was nice to talk about issues like that in a kind of safe environment, but there was also other stuff where it wasn't completely talking about disability. There was other stuff that we got to talk about, like personal things that we could bring up, like our one of the things that we talked about was our pie chart, basically, of what we think about ourselves, like how much we think about our religion or our race or ethnicity or age and things like that. And that kind of opened us up to a bit more of the topic of conversation, like a bit more conversation, talking about what we think about most. Like a lot of times we don't think about our disabilities a lot, or we don't think about our ethnicity a lot, but we do think about religion a lot. So there were different things to talk about in that sort of area. So that was our discussion, and it took about an hour and 45 minutes. But I do think that it was a useful experience. I just don't know if they should continue using it in Library 100, because it did take up a lot of time, and we are kind of busy as freshmen. So that's my vlog. Thanks for listening.